when she finishes the explanation. That's the formal start of the performance. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. I know we have people from all over the world joining us here because this is part of the Ars Electronica Festival. Thank you so much, Ars Electronica, for having us. And also, I'd like to thank Lucy Bonnell and the UK Invisible Garden for hosting us. I'm Ali Hosseini, and welcome to National Gallery X, which is the sort of cutting-edge research wing of the National Gallery. Today we're going to have a performance. So I want to introduce our performers, and then I want to give you some special information about that. But first, behind me here is Mick Grierson. Mick is at the UAL Creative Computing Institute, where he's not only a guitarist, and you'll hear he's quite a good guitarist, he's also a research lead, doing all kinds of cutting-edge software. To our right, Mick's right here, is a sitarist, obviously, Shama Rahman, who has a company called Neurocreate, and she uses music and neurology to create all kinds of phenomenal effects. Now, the other participant in this performance is somewhat different, and that's you, the audience. We're giving you a chance to be part of the performance and make art with your hearts. So enough of me. I'm going to hand this over to Shama, and she's going to explain how you can partake in this performance and help us make it great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali. Thank you very much, Ali. As you mentioned, you guys are all going to be part of our performance today. So in the webcam, we're going to be able to detect your heartbeat from your faces, actually. And this heartbeat is going to be averaged across all of the different viewers, that's you guys, tuning in today from across the world. And this collective heartbeat is essentially going to pulse up in this visual that's been created here using a mixture of AI, National Gallery's images, and your heart. And this is going to be creating a visual score for Mick and I to essentially interpret. And hopefully what we are doing will influence you back. And it will create a sort of virtuous loop, shall we say, of feedback and entrainment, so that we feel sort of groupthink and group thought. What would be really, really helpful for us to get to that space is every time you hear me hum, you know, hopefully a simple melody. I mean, I will lift my arm up like this, and you'll see that the lights have come on as well. And I will do a little little melody like, and then I'll go like this to you. So you'll hear the same thing, hopefully twice, and you'll be doing it the second time. Feel free to carry on humming, obviously, but these are just some moments where, you know, we can have that collectivization happening. So, yeah, without further ado, we'll bring in your hearts.
Well, thank you very, very much for a wonderful performance, Shama and Mick. I think John McLaughlin must be smiling wherever he is right now. So thanks, everybody, for participating in our event and watching it. Now we're going to talk about what National Gallery X is and the making of this piece. National Gallery X is a partnership between the National Gallery, which is the UK's premier art museum. This is, it's full of paintings, old paintings, and King's College London is a research institute, which actually is located just down the street from the National Gallery. So we've partnered to look at the past, present, and future of art, and particularly look at how a legacy collection of paintings that just happen to be primarily the Western canon, can continue to inspire people in the future and be relevant. And this show actually comes out of that joint mission that the gallery has together. We have a video that explains it pretty well. We opened about 2 years ago, and first we'll just roll a video where our director, Gabriele Finaldi, talks about National Gallery X. I describe how we want to have a modern renaissance, and I'll get into that a little bit more after the video, and you'll also hear from Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web, among other things. So let's over to the video for a bit. At NGX, we're trying to spark a modern renaissance.
We want to try things out. It is a laboratory, it's a place to experiment, and we're going to bring together academics, curators, artists, technologists, in order to try things out here.
We need people who are cross-trained as artists, scientists, and engineers to create 3D media and new forms of spatialized experience that our predecessors couldn't dream of.
This builds on a really rich history of collaboration between the university and the gallery, and really a shared vision for innovating and communicating in the arts, technology, and humanities.
National Gallery X is about creating tomorrow's museum today by bringing together the experimental research technologies from King's College Labs, together with the art, building and audiences in the National Gallery, and asking artists, creatives and thinkers to think how art and technology can come in together in new ways. We want to create tomorrow's museum experience today.
And it's not often that you got people deciding, okay, we are going to have a project like NGX. We are going to look at how can science and art be designed in service of each other to be a thing together. So I think that's exciting.
Thanks very much. So in the video, we talk about creating a modern renaissance. And what do we mean by this? Actually, let's think about what the Renaissance meant, the Italian Renaissance in particular. You had people, Renaissance men, now we would say Renaissance people, who were multi-talented. I mean, they were painters, but they were also engineers. They were artists, but they were also scientists. They combined all of these things and created a new culture that was both more humane and able to progress, in fact, laying the foundations of modern science. And at National Gallery X, we're encouraging a culture such as this to form again, because we think that we see all these impending ecological disasters. Much of what's happened is human-made, and we need to have a more humane understanding of engineering and science. This stage actually embodies that principle, because the people here with me and who helped create this project are artists and scientists. But before I go one step further, I also want to say a lot of people went into collaborating and making this event a success. So I'd like to thank my colleagues at the National Gallery, Iram Ali, Ash Baker, and Jonathan Sheldon, all of whom have been working furiously to make this thing both live and beautiful. There's some people here who can't be present, but who worked with us closely on this. So actually, one of the people who developed this software that lets your heart participate is named Joshua Murr. He is a graduate student, doctoral student at the UAL CCI, the Creative Computing Institute. He's actually one of Mick's students. So Mick, could you talk a little bit about how the hemodynamic software works and what the conception for that came from?
I can briefly say a few things about it. Just to say that at UAL Creative Computing Institute, we have a lot of different students working on different things. And it focuses on a range moving from creative AI through to human-computer interaction and also data science. Josh's work is really in real-time interaction with artificial intelligence. There are lots of different ways of getting the human heart rate onto the internet. Normally they require devices, but there are other methods, including webcams. Now, some methods are more reliable than others, and we're still testing them out. I think it's fair to say that we tried 2 or 3 different ones for this particular show. The issue really is whether or not you're using an AI to do it, or whether you're going to use a top-down approach. The top-down approach is the easiest to explain, where we just get the average color change in the skin. If we track the head and we get a patch of skin, if that is shifting color, certainly if you look closely at someone, you know, and if you shine a light on them, you can sometimes see a change in parts of their face when blood rushes through. So, and you use that as well, you can see that as a shift in the overall average color, and the color changes and you can pull out a rhythm. So that's one way of doing it. And there are other ways as well where you actually use a machine learning model not just to track the face, but also to track particular veins and the size of those veins, which is a lot more difficult to do. So we tried a number of different methods. Just to say, I recorded all of the heartbeat measures that were coming in on the live stream, and they were going directly into our synthesizers and driving the rhythm, the tempo of my synth. So if it was speeding up and slowing down, that's why. So yeah, but that's more or less how it happened. Just to add as well that Josh Murr has been working on this project, setting up the website. He's not here today. I think his sister is giving birth. So congratulations to them and the whole family. But just to say also that a lot of the work we do is in generative AI for the sort of stuff like you've been seeing here on the screen. And I think Shama is going to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah. So actually, there's another collaborator I haven't mentioned. I don't think we have to thank them yet because they're not demanding it. But that is an artificial intelligence, in fact, an AI. The AI created, worked with us, partnered with us to create a lot of the imagery that you see. And Shama, among other things, is an expert in the creation of this imagery and partnered with an AI to do that. So maybe she can talk a bit about that and how that process worked.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So we are using a type of visual AI called the StyleGAN 2. And the way that we've managed to do this is we asked the National Gallery to provide us with 3 tranches of images, which we as musicians could then interpret as high energy, medium energy, and low energy. So maybe you guys heard a little bit of that with our different textures and things like that. So based on that, we kind of had a consistent data set of high energy, mostly as you can see, nature and plants, medium energy and low energy. And then we then combine this with sort of other imagery of trees and botany and sort of floral influences, and combine this and where the AI then was able to generate a lot of sort of still images, but also some of the sort of videos that you're seeing here, which is the sort of morphing, as they say, between in the latent space. On top of this, you'd have seen there's a lot more sort of visual sort of, let's say, editing and programming that's gone into this, and that's actually with our other collaborator, Olive Gingrich.
So let's welcome Olive to the stage here. Olive, great to have you up here. Beautiful work that you've done there. There are a number of projects that are background to this, one of which is called Zeitgeist, and this is something that Olive and Shama had created together. So maybe they could talk a little bit about Zeitgeist, and we'll get into our residency program next here at
Thank you so much, Adi. Yeah, Zeitgeist is a project that Shama and I developed over the last 2.5 years. And actually, it's part of NGX's AI gallery, which you founded. And yeah, we're very excited to be part of this. And we were able to present it at TAS, another one of the collaborators. Yeah, Zeitgeist is basically visualizing flow, and Shama is specializing in real-time visualizations of these AI classifications of flow, which are mental states of heightened creativity. And what we're doing is we're then visually representing this as a real-time interface. My background is in participatory art, so I'm really focusing on different types of participatory art performances. So for me, it's really exciting to be part of this project. And with Zeitgeist, we've pioneered this a little bit, and so it's a bit of a precursor, I guess, to groupthink in some ways.
Yes, and so, you know, the flow states are something that I was investigating in my PhD in neuroscience, looking the neuroscience of creativity, and then founded a company called NeuroCreate where we developed these real-time deep learning algorithms. Quite different from the style guns, but yeah, another way of kind of detecting patterns in real time.
Yeah, this brings up actually another issue, which is this project is part of what we call the AI Gallery, which is a joint project of the National Gallery and the UKRI TAS Hub. Lots of acronyms today, but that's the UK Research and Innovation Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub. So we're looking at ways of integrating AI into society. As we know, AI is really making a lot of decisions already, and there are some controversies around that. We need to have AI that is not only trusted, but trustworthy. So the UKRI TAS Hub is a consortium of scientists and engineers working at different universities to create these systems, and projects like this are actually helping us understand what the criteria for trust are and actually how to define trust in engineering terms. So I'd actually like to invite somebody else onto the stage now, Diego Semproboni. He is the co-author with Luca Vigano of an article called The Internet of Neurons, and I thought that was a very provocative title, and that actually inspired the name of this, Groupthink, because already we've seen that the internet creates a kind of convergence, both positive and negative, in the way people think. But I'm going to let Diego explain what he means by Internet of Neurons.
Thank you so much, and thanks for inviting me. So Internet of Neurons was like a provocative way to start thinking, oh, what is going to happen when at some point our brain is going to actually be connected to the internet? There are plenty of research labs and private companies that are working on that for several reasons. But as the market move on, and we are security researchers, we don't want to answer those questions later because we want to understand what are like the consequences about it before. And we came up with this article, Internet of Neurons, and actually is the paradigm that tried to explain that at some point with like headphones or like a small pod, we might be connected to the internet. And this is going to be like a very huge breakthrough with the next paradigm. And we are going to be connected, we are going to receive information, but we want also to check what is going to happen in terms of our security. What about our brainwaves? What about me being exposed to the internet? And of course, this seems like futuristic, but it's not, because as proved, and foresighting like Neuralink of Elon Musk is actually working on that, is actually having a lot of successful results. So we need to think about it now.
Thanks very much, Diego. So what was your impression of this performance? We actually had people participating. You know, the heartbeat is a neurological phenomenon, among other things, but did you feel like this gave a sense of what the possibilities of this were? I mean, I know that there are security issues, but there are also creative horizons as well. So do you care to comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the fact that there are several ways to share ourselves, in a sense that through brainwaves or through heartbeat or through, I don't know, we share like something that we call Internet of Skills, where people like actually using the skill remotely in terms of like even surgical way, or we can do actually those things, and we are collaborating with all the people around the world. And there are a lot of pros and good things that we can do, but also we don't want to exaggerate in a sense. This performance was amazing. We were able to share our feelings. We were connected through the music, and this was incredible. Definitely, it will be a step further to understand even like what in the brainwaves happen, and this could be actually in the future.
Well, I think we were looking at both the possibilities and the beautiful possibilities of this, but also let's recall our opening and closing image taken from the National Gallery of the fate of Daphne, who became a tree and essentially lost her agency by being so hyper-connected. So one of the ways that we progress through this at National Gallery X and with our partners at King's College London and the UKRI Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub is through a series of residencies where we're both bringing in people who happen to be multi-talented, such as our performers on stage today, but are actively encouraging people to develop talents and train people to be multi-talented. Let's look at a video that includes our very first resident here 2 years ago at National Gallery X, who is Robert Wilson, one of the world's great artists, theater, opera director, innovator in just about every field he's touched. And let's hear a few words from Bob before we move on.
You are in a very new part of one of the most extraordinary art institutions in the world. When this new venture, National Gallery X, starts a new way of us working with artists to be the people who create our hopefully quite utopian vision of the future with us. To ask, what does art mean tomorrow as new technologies like artificial intelligence, like advanced robotics, like brain-computer interfaces, and a whole range of things we don't even quite know what they are yet, start to reshape the world around us. We thoroughly believe it is artists at the core of that who will shape a vision of what tomorrow looks like and help reshape what museums can be in an emerging and different kind of future.
Communities need centers, a place where we can reflect on the universe, the world. In a sense, the artists are the diaries and journals of our time. So it's wonderful to be here for the opening of this center.
Very much. I hope you enjoyed that talk. It was really powerful to be here in Robert Wilson's presence. Now we've got Olive Gingrich back on stage. He is part of Analema Group, not just collaborator with Shama, but with many other people, and they created a residency too called Kima Color. So we've got an example, a frame grab of Kima Color behind us. Would you like to talk about that a little bit and what the residency process was like here?
Absolutely. So yeah, first of all, it was a great honor to have been invited. Kima Color is taking direct inspiration from the National Gallery's collection, like this piece here. And what we've been doing is we've been visualizing and also sonifying some of these paintings as a 360 video experience that you can access online. So Kima Color is on the NGX website. We'd very much invite you to enjoy it. You can do this via VR or just simply on your mobile phone, and you can use the gyroscope to navigates the space, the 360 space of Kima Color through 3 paintings of the National Gallery's collection.
Yeah, so we encourage you to go to the National Gallery X website and see some of our past and present projects. And finally, we have an upcoming talk with our partners, Art in Flux. This is coming up on the 28th of this month, and actually Olive is one of the organizers of this too, although I'll be there moderating. Olive, do you want to just give us a quick rundown? It's called Transcendence, and it's done by a very, very interesting collective of people who are looking at the relationship between art and spirituality, and it's part of a very successful moderated lecture series that we've had for the past almost 2 years.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Art in Flux is an art collective that is really a platform for various media artists. We've been looking at various different themes, including gender and media art and art and ecology. We've got 2 upcoming talks. Transcendence is the first one, curated by Maria Almena. And as Ali was saying, it's really all about the art of mystical experiences, transformative power of art. We've been collaborating with curators here at the National Gallery to understand the subject better. And this talk will be curated by Maria Almena. And we've got another one later on in November to which we want to invite you to.
Yeah, so please stay in touch with everybody. Let's give a round of virtual applause anyway to our performers. It was magnificent, Shama and Mick. That was wonderful. If you want to see it again, we have another performance coming up on the hour. And let's just thank all the institutions again that have made this possible. The National Gallery, King's College London, the UAL, that's University of Arts of London, Creative Computing Institute, who has generously lent some of their talent to us, NeuroCreate, which has generously lent Shama, and especially the UKRI Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub, because collectively they're all creating the future. And this kind of project hopefully is an enjoyable art experience, but is also an important part of creating an environment which is technology dominated but humane. Thank you. Electronica 2021 Festival and the UK Garden. So thanks very much for coming. My name's Ali Hosseini, and I'd like to welcome you to National Gallery X, right in the heart of London. Let's thank Ars Electronica and Lucy Vanel at the Invisible Garden UK Garden of Ars Electronica. We are going to present a musical performance today with two remarkable people. One is Mick Grierson. Mick is the UAL CCI Creative Computing Institute research lead. He's also a guitarist, as you're about to find out. And to my right is Shama Rahman. She's obviously a sitarist. You're going to find out she does a lot more than the sitar in the future. So these are two of our performers, but there's another set of performers I'd like to introduce. So if you have a mirror, take a look into it. It's you. We are inviting you to launch this special application we've developed and join the performance. You'll be joining through webcam, and in a sense, you'll be making art with your heart. How do you make art with your heart? Shama's going to give us a bit of an explanation about how you can participate and make this performance great. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Ali, and hello, everybody. So you will be looking into a webcam, and from this, we are going to be able to detect your heartbeat through your face. And so the sort of color changes that happen indicates to us a pulse. And hopefully there are a few of you out there, and we will be collecting all of your heart rates into one sort of collective beat and pulse. Just to say, those who sing together, sync together. And this is what we're going to aim to be doing today. So I'll explain a little bit how. So your heartbeat collectively is going to come in as a pulse that we can actually see visualized in this sort of beautiful screen that you can see behind us. And we're going to explain a little bit what this is afterwards, but just to say it includes some of the National Gallery images. And that in itself is going to create a visual score for myself and Mick to perform off of. So you guys are going to be creating art with your hearts. You're going to be influencing us as musicians, and hopefully by listening to us, you are also going to get a little bit affected, get a little bit into it, immerse yourselves, and create a virtuous, positive sort of loop and feedback and entrainment. So at some points, I'm going to do a little bit of humming, a little bit of singing, and I would invite you to join me in that. And this is where you guys singing will hopefully help us to synchronize with you and to each other. And so I will sing a particular sort of line. I'll probably do this with my hand, and the lights will come up as well, like so. And if I go da da da, and then I'll go like this to you and sing it again, da da da, and the second time, hopefully you'll sing with me. And don't just feel constrained to only sing whenever, I'm indicating. Carry on doing so as we go along. You're in your own space and in your own rooms. Why not? So without further ado, we will make some art with your hearts.
Wow. I think after that, we all just need to take a moment and reflect upon what just happened. So I am going to give you that moment, and then I'm going to talk.
Okay.
Thank you, Shama, and thank you, Mick. That was a phenomenal performance. And, you know, we have two, in my mind, great performers here on stage, but let's not forget that there are a lot of people who make this performance happen. So before we go any further, I just want to thank the people who are really closely involved with this, my colleagues at the National Gallery, Ira Malley, John Sheldon, and Ash Baker. Live on network, Alain Renaud and Sergei Drozdov. We'll see a few of the other people here, but we also need to think about Chris Michaels, who runs this facility with me too, and has enabled all of this to happen, along with the National Gallery, Ars Electronica, and the UKRI TAS Hub. So let me tell you a little bit about National Gallery X and our mission. And I think that this performance actually encapsulated that, because I'm going to mangle Blake here, but I was really, you know, you saw 500 years of the history of art collapsed into a moment because we had some very old paintings from the National Gallery combined with some very new ones from NAI, that is one of our collaborators. You heard musical traditions which started out thousands of miles apart coming together in that moment, and many decades of popular and classical music, ragas and rock and roll, all coming together. So what did Blake say? Was it eternity in a grain of sand? But it makes me think of a Borges story called The Aleph, where you just looked at this tiny point and everything was included in that tiny point. And I think that that was something very special that I experienced during this. National Gallery X is a collaboration between the National Gallery, which is the UK's main national art gallery. It essentially contains, along with the Louvre, the canon of Western art. We are in partnership with King's College London to research, experiment, and co-create the future of art by looking at its past. So we want to look at the past, the present, and the future of art, and clearly technology plays a big role in that. So there's a lot of engineering that goes into this. And let me now explain some of how the participation was enabled. My heart was racing. I think judging from the visual score that we had, a lot of our audience heart was racing, but that heartbeat was actually detected through a piece of technology which was developed by a doctoral student of Mick's. His name is Joshua Murr. Josh is unable to be with us today. He's had a very happy coincidence in his family, a birth. So Mick, could you explain what we call hemodynamic monitoring and how it allowed people to participate in this performance?
Thanks, Ali. I'd be happy to. So what we tried to do was take information from everybody's webcam. So everyone who was tuned in to the performance, if you had your webcam open, or if you had a webcam, we were measuring the color changes in the face. So we're trying to detect a face and then measure the color changes. And there are lots of different ways of doing that. And we tried a few, and it kind of works. It's reasonably reliable. It's tough to say how good it is until the day, but I've been watching the numbers coming in, and it seems to make sense. So there's people out there that are watching the stream, and the data is then averaged, and we get other statistics from it, including standard deviation, and then we pull down that data into our raw sequencer software, and it drives the tempo of the devices that we're using, and Shama and I are synchronized. So it's a direct relationship, and it does seem like it worked, which is good because there are times when it felt like it might not. But the basic idea is you just get the average of the color changes. So if you shine a light on someone's face and you get the angle right, you can see as their heart beats, you can see a shift in the color. And what we're doing is we're picking that up. And there are other models as well, which we tried, which they detect the face and they detect a vein, and then that vein pulses, and then we aggregate that data and we use it. And we are grateful for your consent in that regard. Just to say that at Creative Computing Institute, we do lots of different types of work, including image-based art generation using AI. And that's a big part, I know, Ali, of what you're doing, and I think Shama is going to tell us a bit about that.
Yes, there's another collaborator that I didn't acknowledge because, fortunately, this collaborator has not yet risen up and demanded recognition, which is, never will, probably, artificial intelligence. But an AI did generate many of the images that you see. The AI learned from the canonical collection of paintings in the National Gallery, and it was trained to produce these images. Shama, would you like to tell us a bit more? Because you did some of the training, hopefully not with a whip.
So yeah, this is an example of creative AI, as Mick was mentioning. And so this whole sort of performance has been sort of a collaboration, a co-creation, and this is where the AI has co-created with us. In particular, we were using a visual AI technique called a style GAN2, General Adversarial Networks, and we essentially created 3 data sets, which sort of tried to make our lives as musicians a little bit easier in the sense of we grouped each data set in terms of energy levels. So high energy, medium energy, and low energy. And from that, hopefully you heard a few of the different sort of textures that we're coming in and out of. And within each of these data sets, we took some paintings from the National Gallery that were digitized, and we tried to put in about 300 for each of these data sets. So you might have heard that AI is kind of hungry for data. So in addition to that, we also brought in sort of other stimuli and influences to sort of pepper the aesthetics. As you can see, it's very much about plant life and nature, and so we brought in sort of influences and inspiration like that. Trained it, and it gave us loads and loads of images, but also gave us videos where you can see, each of these sort of images morphing into another in this sort of beautiful, what we call latent space video. And in addition, to that. It's not just the Stalgan. We also have, yet again, another human coming in on board and doing a lot of visual programming. You saw some of your heartbeats doing this, hopefully, and you saw some of the branching and the sort of beautiful sort of transitioning happening. And that programming was done by Olive Gingrich.
Yeah, actually, before we bring in Olive, we just want to talk a little bit more about National Gallery X and our mission here. So, and let me point out, actually, a lot of these images, both of the paintings and the photographs that we did, come from Hampstead Heath here in London. So Hampstead Heath has been an enduring source of inspiration for artists and the arts, and it continues to be even in this performance. But first, I'd like to actually show you an introductory video where we talk about what National Gallery X hopes to do in terms of triggering a modern renaissance. I talk about that a bit, but you can also see our director, Gabriele Finaldi, Chris Michaels, co-director of National Gallery X, and finally, Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the World Wide Web. We had the honor of having him open our facility. So let's hear from them before going on. At NGX, we're trying to spark a modern renaissance.
We want to try things out. It is a laboratory, it's a place to experiment, and we're going to bring together academics, curators, artists, technologists, in order to try things out here.
We need people who are cross-trained as artists, scientists, and engineers to create 3D media and new forms of spatialized experience that our predecessors couldn't dream of.
This builds on a really rich history of collaboration between the university and the gallery, and really a shared vision for innovating and communicating in the arts, technology, and humanities.
National Gallery X is about creating tomorrow's museum today by bringing together the experimental research technologies from King's College Labs, together with the art, building and audiences in the National Gallery, and asking artists, creatives and thinkers to think how art and technology can come in together in new ways. We want to create tomorrow's museum experience today.
And it's not often that you got people deciding, okay, we are going to have a project like NGX. We are going to look at how can science and art be designed in service of each other to be a thing together. So I think that's exciting.
So let's thank Tim Berners-Lee for making all of this possible. But a lot of influences went into this project. We've talked about Hampstead Heath. We've talked about the Creative Computing Institute, but also Shama and Olive Gingrich. Let me introduce Olive Gingrich of the Analema Group, who collaborates with a number of different artists and people, but they have a project called Zeitgeist, and Zeitgeist is part of the backdrop for this. It helped develop the infrastructure that we had. So I'm going to hand this over to you, Olive, and let you talk a bit about your practice and how you and Shama have co-created another piece that was in the constellation of pieces that we have around here.
Thank you, Adi. Yeah, so I am a researcher and a practicing artist, researcher at the National Center for Computer Animation. And Shama and I, we've been working for 2.5 years on the project Zeitgeist, which is a neuroart project that works with the audience as well. So just like a Groupthink, we were working on a participatory art piece that acts as an interface where the audience is essentially becoming an actor and part of the performance. So Zeitgeist is using flow mental states, so states of heightened creativity, to visually represent them, and turns the audience into a co-creator, into an artist in their own right. Yeah, Shama, maybe you want to add something?
Yeah, so basically it's all developed from my PhD, which was interdisciplinary and looking at the neuroscience of creativity, the different sort of mental states that we switch into throughout a creative process and through different creative processes. And one of these is, as I was mentioning, is the flow mental state. High creativity, you get super absorbed and engaged in it. I certainly felt in flow. What do you think, Mick, at that point? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the idea is that we actually got a brain activity, signature brain activity that I found during the PhD, and then essentially developed deep learning models through my startup NeuroCreate. So now we can detect these through wearables in real time, and we then represent that in sort of beautifully designed visuals by Olive. And
Yeah.
it's all about enabling people to get into that sort of flow state through co-creation again.
Yeah, and through entrainment, so by basically nudging through visual cues. And Zeitgeist is part of the AI gallery that Ari founded here at NGX.
That's right. So we do encourage you to look at the NGX or National Gallery website. We have an artificial intelligence gallery, the AI gallery, which was actually co-founded with yet another acronym, the UKRI TAS Hub. That's the UK Research and Innovation Trustworthy Autonomous Systems Hub. We've been talking about AI a lot here, and obviously it's becoming very, very influential in our society. And we think that AI needs to be both trusted, and not just trusted, but trustworthy. So as artists and engineers, we're all collectively working to that goal. King's College London is part of a consortium with the University of Nottingham and Southampton University to form to work on trust and developing trustworthy AI. And actually, I'd like to introduce another player here from King's College London, where a lot of the research on this comes out. Please welcome Diego Semperboni. He, along with Luca Vigano, have written a paper called The Internet of Neurons. And that paper, the title of that paper, actually inspired the name of this piece, Groupthink, and a lot of the thinking about it in terms of not just a cool and flowing piece of art, but something that's provocative and that opens up questions, moral questions that engineers have to answer. So, Diego, could you tell us what is the Internet of Neurons?
Yes, so Internet of Neurons is a paradigm that envisages actually a situation that we will, at the end, in, I don't know, 10, 20 years, we will be able to see, where everyone might be able to connect to internet through the brainwaves. So using like, as, I don't know, on headphones or like a headset, a small pod, we will be able actually to capture stimulus of the brain and send them to internet, but not only that, it's also to receive information from the internet and process through our brains. And with this piece of research, we were actually asking ourselves that there are plenty of technologies that come out and they just don't reason what are actually pros and cons. And as a security researcher, we want to understand these pros and cons before this technology happens.
So tell me, you're sitting here, you're objective, you're a security engineer and a researcher in this, and now you've heard a bit about how this whole piece was put together. Do you feel like, what was your impression of it, actually? Did it advance things for you at all?
Well, this piece, I mean, this performance was so amazing, and the fact that everything was captured through a camera, it was astonishing. I just look forward to see what we could capture using brainwaves and having those performances as well, in the sense that we will be able probably to capture emotions, or even like having pictures what we are thinking in that moment. So just, this is amazing.
Well, thanks very much, Diego. We actually are all in residence here, and just so you know, the National Gallery X and the UKRI TAS Hub are teamed up on the AI Gallery, and both organizations proceed through residencies. Now, we launched 2 years ago with a very, very notable resident. His name is Robert Wilson. He invented contemporary opera, in a sense. And I had the pleasure of working with him for many years, but Bob came and opened National Gallery X and made some statements that I think were very inspirational for all of us who have followed in his footsteps. So could we watch the Wilson event a few minutes of that, please?
You are in a very new part of one of the most extraordinary art institutions in the world. When this new venture, National Gallery X, starts a new way of us working with artists to be the people who create our hopefully quite utopian vision of the future with us. To ask, what does art mean tomorrow as new technologies like artificial intelligence, like advanced robotics, like brain-computer interfaces, and a whole range of things we don't even quite know what they are yet, start to reshape the world around us. We thoroughly believe it is artists at the core of that who will shape a vision of what tomorrow looks like and help reshape what museums can be in an emerging and different kind of future.
Communities need centers, a place where we can reflect on the universe, the world. In a sense, the artists are the diaries and journals of our time. So it's wonderful to be here for the opening of this center.
Thank you. Sorry. Well, thanks very much, Bob, for coming and joining us here. I hope you enjoy this video when you see it. I'd like to reintroduce one of our second resident, a representative of a group, a collective called the Analema Group, Olive Gingrich, and he's going to talk a bit about Kima color, which was another way of reinterpreting the paintings in the National Gallery. One of the things we always bear in mind here is that the National Gallery was founded to bring up the aesthetics of England. So you can imagine Josiah Wedgwood's, painters coming down to London to look at these great paintings and upping their game. And I think the National Gallery has always been about upping the game for the aesthetics of the UK. So hopefully we can continue that tradition now that we're doing digital art as well as pottery. So please tell us a bit about Analema, Olive.
Yeah, so the Analema Group is an art collective that has been operating for about 10 years now, founded by Evgenia Emmets, and includes my colleagues Alan Renaud and David Negrau. And the four of us were working specifically with visual sound. And here we've been taking the collection of the National Gallery as an inspiration to create a visual and sonic interpretation of these paintings. COVID hit, so the art piece turned into an online art piece, and you're very much invited to explore it on the National Gallery X website. Here you can see a snapshot of Kima Color. It is a 360 video sound experience, so the idea is you can use your phone, you can use VR, and you can explore the space of color in some of the masterpieces in the National Gallery's collection. Please feel free to check out Kima Color at the National Gallery X website.
And we do have another event coming up on the 28th. It's called Transcendence, and it's looking at spirituality and art and addressing the collection and the artistic process through spirituality. Olive is quite close with the organizer of that particular event, so I'll let you explain that, and then we'll take a few closing words.
Thank you so much, Adi. Yeah, so Transcendence is curated by my colleague Maria Almena. The three of us, Maria Almena, Afra Shemza, and I, we founded Art in Flux, and it's a platform for media artists to profile their work. This particular event will be looking at the transformative power of art, the art of mystical experiences, and there'll be art and research specifically focusing on this on the 28th of September, and we'd love to see you there. It's a free event accessible at the National Gallery's website.
Thanks, Olive. I want to thank everybody again for attending, and I just want to leave you with a few thoughts. You've seen some people here on stage who prove that the Renaissance person is possible. We had Renaissance men back in the Quattrocento, and they didn't worry about whether they were engineers or artists or scientists. They did it all, and they did it organically and instinctively, and they built a better world in that process. And since then, specialization has moved us very far, but I personally believe, and I think National Gallery X is mandated to start creating Renaissance people again. In other words, people who are both engineers and artists, who are scientists and psychologists, people who can come together, not just working on interdisciplinary teams, but working in multiple disciplines themselves. And I think that's critical for creating a more humane world, because everything now is engineered, and we need humanity to play a big role in that design. And now, as a final note, I am going to beg our musicians just to play a little bit more. I think their fingers are sore, but if we could just get a couple more minutes, I'll step off stage, and please just enjoy these last few minutes. Thank you very, very much for coming and attending, and you can catch the recording later. I certainly will.